I'll mute myself.
Welcome to episode 193 of Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South and Texas Pete. On today's episode, we break down an exciting week 2. We discuss Chris's trip to Tuscaloosa for the Bama-Texas game, as well as the game itself. We discuss if the SEC is mid, as the kids say. We listen to your voicemails, and then we project our current top 5 in college football. You can find the show on our website, SaturdayDownSouth.com, and Apple and Spotify. During the season, just like we're doing today, except for today's Monday, join us for the live show every Sunday at 8 Eastern Time on the Saturday Down South YouTube page. Find clips from the show on Twitter at SatDownSouth and at SatFB Uncensored. On Instagram and TikTok at Saturday Down South. You can find us on YouTube at Saturday Down South. And now, here's the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South and Texas Pete. I'm your host, Tyler Huck, and with me as always, my co-host, back in the ATL. Where are you currently? This is Chris Marler.
I'm at the Hyatt Centric.
Sick. Is that in Hapesville?
It's in Midtown Atlanta. It's not in Hapeville. No, it's in Midtown Atlanta. So I'll tell everyone right now that I don't have my mic and the audio might be spotty, and I don't care because it was a tough weekend. We just got our voice back. But yeah, I'm in Atlanta. It's been a fun little trip to Atlanta, and then I'm leaving tomorrow, and that's about it.
So where do we want to start? You just want to start with the big game? How was the trip, first of all?
It was fun. It was a good trip. I had a blast. I mean, like it was a fun trip to Tuscaloosa. The game itself, I will say that, like, we'll get into it obviously with the game. I was pretty disappointed in Bama fans in general. Not super thrilled with like the outcome, obviously. But like I always say, if we're gonna talk about fucking college football, we're gonna talk about sports, we're gonna do it in facts. So I know I see a few people in the chat already and like our comments and our listeners that love to remind me when I'm wrong. So if we're going to do that, we're also going to remind me when I'm right. And I don't know if I've ever nailed anything as accurately as I did this game.
Yeah, in fact, I think when we were recording the preview, you said, well, I was feeling Texas by 10, but now I think maybe Texas will still win, but it'll be less than 10. You're right on the money, bro.
Yeah. I said they were going to be up 14-3 in the first half. I said they were going to score first. By the way, big picks energy this week. 10-2. We are so fucking back. 10-2.
Big picks energy for
a
sure.
Long time to quit gambling. I'll tell you that.
Well, you need to send me these picks when you make your graphic. Just send them directly to me so I can make my picks.
Yeah.
And then, I'll charge you if I don't make money.
Love that for us. No, it was a fun trip. Like Tuscaloosa is always a good time. Met up with some people on from just Gump land, I guess. Some people from Twitter, some people that just like obviously like from real life and shit. Stayed at the most southern woman's house imaginable. Like I've never seen that many fucking like angel figurines in my life. It was nice. It was lovely.
Angel figurines, huh?
I forgot what they're called, but like if you're Southern, your grandma definitely had them just littered all over, like not the dining room, but the den.
Are they ceramic?
Yeah.
Yeah, they look like babies.
They look like babies, like two mini babies.
I know what you're talking about.
So fucking weird. But yeah, but it was fun. We went up on. I flew in Thursday, drove in town Friday, and then went to Innisfree that night, hung out with some people. I mean, I was on one, I'll say that. And then on Saturday, didn't make it to game day just because, I'd been to game day 1,000 times. And then went and tailgated at a friend's house during the day, and then went to the game that night. And, from what I experienced, for the most part, it was a really fun atmosphere. I just was shocked with some of the stuff that was like, in Texas, you get a night game, you get like all this stuff. Ticket prices plummeting. They were going for like $80 day of. They were going for like, there's people that bought tickets for like $300 like a couple weeks back, and they were like trying to turn around. They were getting like $80 a piece for them in the upper deck. It was just weird. Like it wasn't full at kickoff. Thought that was kind of weird. But as far as the game itself, if you want to get it, yes, Precious Moments figurines. That's fucking exactly what it is, Beard Dog. And I probably should drop the F word when I said it. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to talk about the game. We can kind of talk about like we don't have to. I don't take yet another victory lap about how fucking right I was, but we can talk about like the game itself because I think there's a lot of takeaways that are good and bad from Bama. I know that I heard the dynasty is dead all weekend and especially over the last 24 hours, which I've hated. But like, we can get into this later, but I'll say it now just to throw it out there.
Yeah.
Texas is a good football team, right?
They are. They're in the top 5 now.
They are. It sucks to lose at home. It sucks to lose by 10. It sucks to have a fourth quarter lead and lose. I get all that. They got manhandled up front. You still look at that schedule, Tyler. You tell me where you see all these other losses coming from this 8-4 shit that I've been hearing all weekend.
I think the large part of the negativities surrounding Jalen Milroe. Am I right on that?
And the offensive line.
Yeah. That's the problem. I mean, look, if you don't have a QB you trust, when you go into some of these games, especially on the road, with a team with modicum of defense, and that may be the best defense you face all year. Probably will be.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the negativity comes from. I mean, this is what Milroe can throw a great deep ball, and he can run the hell out of the ball. Everything else, I don't trust at all.
He was staring down receivers for sure. Like just getting into the game, I thought the defense played decently well to start. Willie Gray makes a perfect and phenomenal point. One of the things that was so great last week that we saw, they were able to put pressure on people and they were able to, they were +2 in the margin. They were great at only had 2 penalties for 19 yards. Tons of penalties, especially early on. Didn't have a single sack. I don't even know how many pressures they had on Quinn Ewers, to be honest. Now, that's an offensive line that we talked about in the offseason that returned all 5 starters, and they were going to be really, really good on offense. I was surprised that they weren't like better on script and that they didn't like put up 7 in the first drive. But like I said, like on the last episode, from a betting standpoint, Texas score first, Texas to win the first quarter, Texas +4.5 first half. And then Ewers over 1.5 touchdowns. All those things seemed like they were pretty easily on the table. But like what was most noticeable for me was Bama got the ball early, and every single time they had something positive happen, they did something stupid to shoot themselves in the foot. They were running the ball effectively early, and then you talk about what's going on here? What does it say from Nevin? Oh, yeah. Someone talking about bookmarks in the comments. Yeah, I mean, like I'm sure Bama fans were pretty confident going into the game because Bama fans are always overconfident in everything they do, except for reading. That's about it. So
as well as they should be.
Reading's a tough one. Summer reading program. Yeah, it's like so, and all the losses have been super close. But like what Sark was able to do to the defense. Like, or going back to what they were doing on offense, like they looked good. They were able to run the ball effectively. They were opening up some big holes. I think they ripped off like 9 yards on the first carry, 7 on the second, and then they went into this weird play action stuff. And they throw a pick, and it's not only a pick, but it's on your side of the field. They returned to the 30. Now, hats off to the defense. They got pretty lucky because Xavier Worthy drops a pass. I did see a lot of stuff about how all the drop, like there was 2 touchdown passes Texas should have had. It should have been way worse. That's all fine. Bama had 2 touchdowns called back because of penalties, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, every single thing. And this is one of the things I said about LSU is like everything that LSU did against Florida State was shit that teams that are elite and championship teams don't fucking do. And that is not what happened here. Like that's the exact same thing that happened here. All the things that championship teams do and that you've seen Bama teams do in the past, they didn't do. That interception in the fourth quarter was horrible. That
was bad.
It was real bad. And I don't even know where he could have been looking. But like if you talk about the takeaways from it, I thought Texas was going to win the game. And I thought they were going to win by 10+ points. I said it all offseason, and that comes out to be true. But there's still a lot of negatives to take away from the Bama thing. And I'll like break them down before I build them up. But with the negatives and the stuff that people are talking about, like it's fully valid and warranted to sit here and question if this thing is going to the ship is going to be righted, right? Because Milroe did look really, really bad against the first good team he has played. He did throw a deep ball that was great, and then they took a 16-13 lead. You claw back into a game, you're able to hold that offense, to 0 points in the third quarter and limit them under 2 touchdowns for most of the game. Problem is, you're not doing anything on offense on your own. Your offensive line was getting fucking manhandled all night. Like Proctor on the what do you call it? I'm like at left tackle was just getting destroyed all night, every single snap. They have 5. You should not give up 5 fucking sacks when Jalen Milroe is the quarterback. And there were several times where he was like, his eyes stayed downfield and that stuff. I'm sure they beat into his head. There was like, listen, you don't need to tuck the ball and run every single time. Like, we want you to throw and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But like, there were several times where he had a lot of field and a lot of room to work with and just chose not to do it. But the biggest negative takeaways of what you didn't win, bro, you had a 16-13 lead going into the fourth quarter at home. And not only did you lose by 10 points, you had a 16-13 lead going into the fourth quarter at home. And you let Texas go down the field on you in 3 plays. First play on your offensive possession after you gave up the lead is an interception returned to the 6-yard line. Very next play is a touchdown. You had a lead at home going into the fourth quarter, and within 5 plays, in less than a minute and a half, you were down 11. That's not what championship teams do. And really, if you want to take a step back and you want to talk about elite teams and Bama versus elite teams, and I think Texas could be in that category, not saying they're as good as this team I'm going to mention, but they're very good. Think about the last time they were in a big moment like this and they had clawed their way back in and got a lead in the fourth quarter. And what happened? Stetson Bennett, 4 plays, 73 or 72 yards right down the field. And like, they couldn't stop anybody in the pass game, and they got their asses kicked. And then the worst part too is you look at all that, and I heard this nonstop about how like Bama's defense gave up, and I was like, I don't know if that's the case, but like they did. You didn't like you gave the ball to Texas with 7 minutes and 13 seconds left to go in the game,
right?
And you didn't get it back.
Just not something you're used to seeing out of Bama, especially at home.
No.
We got some voicemails from this game.
Oh God. None of them from me.
Yeah, which is disappointing. Let me screen share. Hold on 1 second.
You're good. I will say while you're pulling that up, the other thing I see it mentioned here in the comments from Willie Gray and some of the play designs and stuff like that. I think that like it was a really like you can sit here and say all the negative shit you want to about Bama, and again, it's deserved and warranted and all that kind of stuff. There's so many positives you have to give your flowers to Texas. Like, I mean, like they were really, really good. And like, if you look back at any of the game tape, not only have they beaten people up front, they were more physical than Alabama, but like the ratio of like players being open versus like the seconds that go by during Quinn Ewers dropbacks and just how open these players were on the field was mind blowing. And I kept saying it wasn't just going to be Xavier Worthy. They had A.D. Mitchell. They had Whittington. They also had Jatavian Sanders at tight end. Those 4 guys combined for 67% of your receptions. They combined for over 309 yards receiving out of like 356 total. They were phenomenal. All of them had at least one chunk play. All of them. And that was really, really impressive to see. And Sark, he was in his bag all fucking night.
Per usual. Yeah, A.D. Mitchell was a big pickup in the portal. No doubt about it. All right, let's see if you can hear this. This was before the game.
Good morning, Uncle Chris. Good morning, T-Huck. It's your boy, Mitchell Spoon. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on game day Saturday. Just got through listening to the Week 2 preview episode again. I can't tell you, man, I'm fired. I'm fired fucking up. Fired up. Tonight's going to be, I think it's going to be the first real example of what they were talking about all offseason of joyless murder ball.
Oof.
I'll say Texas is good. They have a good team. You know, they do have Sark, but you're not going to come into Bryant-Denny on Saturday night and get a win against Nick Saban and Alabama, especially after you have been questioning Alabama all off season. Who's the quarterback going to be? How's the defense going to look? What about the receivers?
I love there's a truck saying back up in the middle of this right now.
It's going to be Jordan.
It's very apropos.
Hey, I'll have to Google
Like
that.
dump truck's about
sure.
to like dump something out or something like that.
Yeah.
For Mitchell Spoon's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and stop the email. He called back at 11:11 that night.
I want to hear that now.
Well, he left a 3-minute voicemail, and then he proceeded to call back. He proceeded to call back, and he starts out by saying, "My previous voicemail was a little long, so I'm going to start over." And then he did a 2.5-minute voicemail.
He called 3 times?
He called 3 times.
Well, good for Mitchell Spoon. We appreciate you, Mitchell Spoon.
Yeah.
I'm long too.
So I'll play a second one, and we'll get into it. I haven't listened to it. It's 2.5 minutes long, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
My previous mail was previous voicemail was too long. I apologize about that.
I think Mitchell had a little drink during the game.
I know I did.
We got big questions on the offensive line. We got big questions at the quarterback position. And honestly, our defense needs to question itself.
Yeah, that's actually fair.
We straight up got owned. We got beat at the line. Receivers couldn't get open again. Some drop passes. I mean, the whole game, we were playing catch-up. From the start, we were playing catch-up. I don't understand what happened. Besides the fact that we fell apart. And I mean, definitely not a team that can win a national championship.
Oh, fuck off.
Definitely not a team that can win an SEC championship right now.
All right, he's a little.
Okay, so do we have more calls from this game?
We do. We have some shorter ones.
Okay, some shorter ones.
All right, Marler, T-Huck, fellas, I don't know what I just saw. You know, last week we think Milroe's the guy. This week, go ahead and give Lonergan a chance. I don't know, fellas. I don't know. It was shitty.
I hate that.
I'm sick and tired of hearing these guys, all off season. We hear about we're going to push people around. We didn't push anybody around. We're going to be more disciplined. I mean, we had 2 touchdowns wiped off the board with penalties. I think it cost us 11 points. We lost by 10. So I'm just tired of hearing it. I'm just tired of hearing it. I'm getting sick and tired of the bullshit. I'm getting tired of the talk. I love Saban. It's like blasphemy to say, but
Here we go.
he's not holding them accountable. What happened to the guys like Will Lowry? Walk on safety. If you're going to do the right thing, you're going to play, because these guys aren't doing the right thing. So, anyways, at the end of the day, this doesn't impact the season. We can still, accomplish our goals and all that shit.
I
But,
think so dejected saying it.
It looks like more of the same, more of the last 2 years. Anyways, fellas, love y'all. Y'all keep doing what you're doing. See ya.
All right, let me start by saying I love that guy too. But I also want to say, and I know that we were all in our fields on Saturday night, right?
Yeah. That one came in at 12:30 in the morning.
But if you're going to sit here and say that the glory days of this team included a white walk-on fucking safety, that I'm okay with Caleb Downs taking over that position. I do think that like there's something to be said from a toughness standpoint of them getting bullied around. But I will get to my, what do you call it, sunshine pumping at the end.
Do we want to play more voicemails, or we want to?
How many more do we have?
Wrap up. We got. I mean, there's another 3-minute one. I'm not going to play that one. We have one. We have a 1-minute one from this morning, 7:30 in the morning.
Who? Yeah, play that. Is that like a debt collector?
What's up, guys? It's Bo.
Did you pay the phone bill?
Bama fan here. So, I don't know. I've had some time to think kind of what happened this weekend. It's Monday morning, driving to work, getting back to reality.
It is Monday.
I'm not really sure how I felt about the game. I thought, Bama played okay. Texas obviously played amazing. And I was just kind of wondering why did Saban not make the call? Why didn't we change quarterbacks? I know I saw him in the press conference afterwards saying, after he came down and scored that touchdown, he wanted to keep him in, but it was just, I don't know, just mistake after mistake, and just seeing him sit in the pocket and not make anything happen. Or, as athletic as Milroe is, I don't understand how he wasn't able to, get more rushing yards, and why he was only, getting out and scrambling for, 5 to 6 yards when some of these other guys that are not as athletic as him making bigger plays than that. I just don't understand, and I don't think we move with Milroe going forward. What are y'all's thoughts on that? Thanks.
So for me, I would say the whole Milroe thing is, if he wasn't the best guy on the roster, I don't know why he'd be starting. So you can move on from him, but I don't know that anybody else has given you, at least in practice, anything better than he's given you. It'd be weird if that was the case.
So, all right, here's the thing. I get what everyone's saying, and it's in hindsight 2020 because you gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter, and that's the most you've given up in the Nick Saban era, like in the fourth quarter. It's unacceptable. But I know who didn't give up 21 points in the fourth quarter, and that was Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe also wasn't the one giving up 5 sacks. It wasn't like he was holding on the ball too long. He's not the one that had any of the penalties that were called back because of the two touchdowns that were called back. 2. It wasn't holding on Jalen Milroe. It wasn't a personal foul on Jalen Milroe. Bama fans don't think they have 3 Tua Tagovailoas on the bench at any time. No one thinks that. Like, no one thinks that. I think that, like, the reason why you don't take him out is because, and this is going to shock you. Hear me out here, Tyler. At what point do you say you take him out of the game? Like, you tell me, and I'm going to get fucking fired up about this. You tell me at what part you take him out of the fucking game.
Well, I mean, it's not like they struggled. I mean, they almost put up 400 yards of offense. So it's not like.
But what part do you take him out of the game? Is it when you're struggling, but you're only down 7 at the first half, and you've had 2 touchdowns?
Well, you were winning going into the fourth quarter.
Or I'm sorry. You were winning going into the fourth quarter. Why were you winning going into the fourth quarter? I'll answer.
Played okay
because I can't see you. The reason why you were winning going into the fourth quarter is because he threw a 58-yard fucking bomb to Jermaine Burton for the go-ahead score. And I fully get that he threw an interception in the following, the following drive that led to another score. But, like, Jalen Milroe struggled for sure. I think that, like, the one thing that is going to, like, when we look down the road, and they've got a make or break win back against the wall game against Ole Miss in 2 weeks, right? The O-line is a massive issue. The O-line is a massive issue. There's plenty of times he probably could have run and done better. Listen, he missed some things too, right? But, like, yeah, that's a good point. Like he should not. I don't see when you bench him in the game because he brought you back, and, like, he wasn't the one that quit. The defense quit, and that's a problem. But, like, I know he wasn't in coverage. The last thing I'll say about this game, because we talked about it for way too fucking long already, and I fully, like I said, I fully get all of, like, the negative reviews from it, and, like, the takeaways all being negative. If we're gonna say that Saban should retire or like all that kind of shit, okay, that seems like an egregious overreaction. What I will say to you is, you look at that schedule, Tyler. There's not anyone on that schedule the rest of the season that is as good of a football team as Texas is. It's the second week of the year, and I would be shocked to see that if this is the same team at the end of the season as it is right now. I don't like the fact they had their first loss this early in the season because they've never had that in the Saban era. They're trying to dig out of a hole to get to the playoff. But, like, who else on that schedule is beating them? Tennessee, maybe, who struggled with Austin Peay all weekend?
Yeah, that was weird. I kept looking at that score. I was like, is it really a 10-point game in, like, the middle of the third quarter with Austin Peay? LSU, they've got a good offense, I think. Their defense struggles, though. They're not going to be as good as Texas's defense. I mean, yeah, to your point, like, A&M looked they didn't look great. I mean, their offense is better, but their defense seems to be a sieve, which is shocking. So no, this is going to be the best team you play. I mean, Ole Miss will be at home. They were losing the majority of that game to Tulane, who had a backup QB. So to your point, I mean, they could easily run the table from here, but I don't know. You know, the edge of the Bama team, you're not as an outside fan, I'm not looking at Bama as like unbeatable these days anymore.
No, not at all. Yeah, and I think Clint Lamb brought up a real good point too. I think it's something that's like we can mention on the way out is like after Jimbo won, you look at the games that they've had against like Saban in his last 7 games against former assistants, he's only 4-3. 2 of those losses were by 10, 15 points, and 3 of the 4 wins were single score games. So I mean, I get it. I'm just, I'm not going to sell all my shares yet. Let's get into a different game.
All right, let's run through the schedule. See if anything pops out here that was interesting. Wake put the beat down on Vandy, as I said they would. That was one of the only bets I got right.
What did you go for this weekend?
Huh?
What did you go for this weekend?
I have to go back and calculate. It was bad.
Why don't we transition into?
I did take Colorado against my own thoughts. I was like, you know what? The whole public's on Colorado, but I can't bet against Deion, so I'll just go ahead and go with the public. And the Vegas books had to just get killed in that game.
Yeah, so that line was just like free falling in favor of Nebraska.
It was an 11-point swing from when it first opened,
which is insane. But also, like, there's nothing Nebraska does that makes you think that they would. Let's talk about that game real quick, because like I had Colorado to win, I had Colorado to score first. From like the picks from that game, still impressed with Shadur Sanders. I will say the first thing I saw the whole thing about Matt Rule and them like disrespecting the Buffalo at the center.
Dude, this is why people are gonna get sick of Deion, because every game it's like we're disrespected, nobody believes in us. It's like, okay, dude, we get it now.
It's like if Georgia Twitter came to life and got to be a head coach at the Power 5 level. I get it. Yeah, totally get it. No, I mean, like I think what they're doing was really impressive because they started out so slow.
Yeah, what was the scoreless first quarter?
Yeah, scoreless first quarter. Now Jeff Sims might suck. Like he might just be like,
dude, he's bad.
He's like a bad football player.
Yeah. They're going to have to go to somebody else, man. That dude, if he's not throwing a pick or fumbling, he's literally dropping the snap. I mean, it's just, I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
But, God, man, I mean, Shadur again, 393 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, they got him throwing it all over the lot every game. But the dude is, like, legitimately in the Heisman discussion after 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's still early, but like he should be. I mean, if he's put up almost 1,000 yards in there, or almost, I guess what, like almost 900 yards in their first 2 games, that's insane. I thought they did a lot of stuff. What impressed me the most was that was a close game for a while, and they were able to pull away so emphatically, because like Vegas is usually, they could be wrong. They're not that wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that that whole thing is like it's a little bit blown out of proportion in terms of like maybe the Heisman stuff this early, and then but like there's also you have to give them their credit, because like there's nobody that's played like more impressive in the first 2 weeks. Whatever. Anyway, no, I thought that was good. Let's talk about your former coach and A&M. What the fuck happened in Miami?
Dude. Well, first of all, Van Dyke threw it all over him. I mean, 374 yards, 5 touchdowns. I was shocked that this. I think I bet under on this game, which was a real mistake, considering it was 48-33. Both teams went over 400 yards of offense, 433 for A&M, 451 for Miami. Wegman, I thought, looked pretty good. I mean, there was some.
Yep.
He threw the ball 53 times. I don't know, man. I just – we say it every year, but the further we get removed from Jameis Winston playing quarterback for Jimbo Fisher, the worse Jimbo looks just as a coach.
Yeah. I mean, and they
this
had
is
a
not a
lead.
game you should have lost. You have a lot more
No.
talent than Miami. You were favored in the game. There was absolutely, despite the BOGO tickets that they gave away at the game, still nobody there.
Mm-mm.
How do you have this much talent and consistently underperform?
How do you have that much talent on defense and give up 44 points?
48.
48. My bad. Almost half 100. I mean, like, yeah, I don't get that. I don't get that at all. I think that like there might be some growing pains and shit like that in there, but like they look so good in week 1, and I think that a lot of people, including me, were really ready to like kind of not anoint Jimbo Fisher for the great hire that he made with Petrino, but it was like, I mean, they've got a long way to go. Like they've got a long way to go. And what's gonna be interesting about this, like you saw this in the Auburn game on yeah, I love like you saw this in the Auburn game on Saturday night, and like Hugh Freeze talked about it after the game was he ended up calling 3 plays because he's like he's a known play caller, and I know he said he gave up like those duties and all that kind of shit. But like if this keeps happening with Jimbo, you can't convince me that Jimbo is going to continue to let it slide and not think that he's the smartest one in the room, because that's what he's done every fucking place he's been. Like every single time, it's like the opposite of that coach from the Waterboy. Like every time he gets nervous, he tries to like just like run away from everything. Like Jimbo tries to take more control, makes it 1,000 times worse.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know do you think okay, so let's take a look at the schedule, because this was one that we had chalked up in the W's and L's as a W. So now you got to replace that with an L. You got Louisiana Monroe next week.
Tough game.
Home game against Auburn.
And Auburn has owned them in College Station. Owned them over the last.
That's a noon kick.
Trips.
So really, it's 11 a.m. kick.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you go to AT&T Stadium. You play Arkansas. We'll see. Then you get the run of Bama at Tennessee, South Carolina, at Ole Miss. Going to be a real tough stretch. My question to you is this. I know the buyout. Does Jimbo Fisher get fired at the end of this year?
It's $76.8 million.
I know the buyout.
But see, here's the thing. Here's the question. If they decide to wait, I'm not like the best at like always saving money. I get it. We all love spending money. That's so like if you are you gonna tell people like that are oil, like fucking oil tycoons, like, hey, listen, we gotta wait till January 1st so we can save $9 million. Like, fuck no. That place, they raised $740 million in one calendar year after the Manziel thing. They might double his contract just to get him out of there by Thursday. Like, fuck Jimbo. Don't repeat that. Shouldn't have said that probably.
Dude, it doesn't seem like things are just going to magically turn around for that program under Jimbo. I could be wrong on that. They've recruited a ton of talent, but man, I just wonder where the psyche of the team goes once they lose this one. And I know we have some other games to talk about, but was the ACC like 4-1 against the SEC thus far this year?
Yeah.
ACC best conference.
I was going to wait till the end to talk about this. Let's talk about the Ole Miss Tulane game, because that was interesting too. Because like that, I think that's a perfect segue into like after we talk about that. Like, dude, is the SEC good this year?
Dude, is the SEC West good this year?
Maybe not.
Because
like,
look, I think Florida State, again, I think they're, if not the best team in the country currently, they're top 2. So maybe you wait to see on LSU. But I mean, LSU doesn't look as good as we thought they would. A&M doesn't look as good as we thought they would. Bama, I don't know, probably doesn't look as good as we thought they would.
Fuck you, Tyler.
I mean, do you think they look as good as you thought they would?
No.
Georgia was like that. I was watching that game.
Let's discuss this for a second, because they were tied 0-0 at the end of the first quarter against Ball fucking State. And that is objectively hilarious. And I tweeted out a picture of it and I was like, this is amazing. You know why? Because it was amazing. Because you have so much talent and you were tied with Ball State. The amount of people that were like texting me about Texas beating Bama, who is like now a top 5 team afterwards, were like, oh, this is amazing. Like, yeah, well, it's not fucking Ball State. It's Texas. Like, these are very different things. I will say quickly on that game, defense looked good. They were able to force turnovers. And this is gonna be something you guys are gonna get so fucking tired of hearing. I'm gonna keep saying it every single week because it's the most impressive stat in any offense in the country every single week. Georgia, as much as we thought they struggled in quotes or whatever early on, Brock Bowers was like shut down. Like he had one catch for 3 yards. Okay. And I know they're playing Ball State, and I know they had a bunch of like scrubs in late or whatever you want to say. 12 different receivers caught a pass, 9 different receivers caught at least 2 passes. There's no other team in the country that does that. No one. Georgia, it just continues to be so far ahead of everybody. And like, we're not going to get into this because it's only going to make me mad. But like, that's the kind of developing receiver depth and like skill position depth that other teams, like the one that's on like the logo on my hat, didn't do 2 years ago. That's yet another thing that Kirby is ahead of on everyone else in the game. Now let's talk about Auburn Cal.
Okay. So it didn't help Cal that their best player went out with injury when they were leading, but I thought it was a gutsy win there for Auburn. They were favored. They did not cover the spread, but they really struggled to move the ball. And we talked about this in the offseason, but I mean, Peyton Thorne isn't exactly like a program changer that you brought in there.
He got out of Michigan State at the right time, though. Yikes.
Yeah, we can maybe talk about that next week. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Robbie Ashford came in this game and gave them a bit of a spark. Sick catch by their tight end transfer from FIU, Rivaldo Fairweather, to go up in that game. That was a terrible game to watch, I will say.
It was awful. Imagine being like hammered drunk, leaving the Bama loss and trying to go watch fucking Cal Auburn play left-handed fucking thumb war for the last 60 minutes. It was awful. It was awful.
But you're basically in the fourth quarter. Cal had a 75% chance of winning that game at one point.
Here's a crazy stat for you, Tyler. You want to guess out of I think they had 14 total. Auburn had like 14 total possessions. Right?
Okay.
Hold on. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They had 13 total possessions. You want to take a wild guess at how many of those possessions they had more than 5 plays on?
2.
God, you're good at this game. Yeah, 2.
Well, they had 14 points, so that was why I guess that.
Yeah, it was awful.
To see where they scored on. Yeah, and it sucked because Jaden Ott, we talked about him in the preview. He was having a pretty good game before he went out with injury, and Cal was kind of stuck in the mud after that. But, you had some big plays from Rivaldo Fairweather, Jay Fair. Damari Alston looks like he's a pretty good pickup for Auburn. Yeah. They didn't run the ball with much success with any of the other guys. I mean, Brian Battie, the kid from USF, only had 1 carry. Jarquez, 11 carries, 53 yards. But they're figuring their way out. I mean, 2-0 is 2-0 at this point, especially when you have a new coach and you're just trying to figure things out and you don't really have – I mean, Bama's not 2-0.
Fuck off, Tyler. I saw some tweet from this asshole on Auburn Twitter that was like, oh, Auburn's 2-0. Not every team in the state can say that. Going to make sure you check on your Bama friends. Like, solid point. But I will also say, like positively from this, like, you had 230 total yards in this game, right? On offense. You were under 100 yards passing. That's horrible. Just horrible. Hats off to the defense. You had 4 turnovers too. There were 7 total turnovers in this game. So hats off to the defense for being able to stay in it for that long. But like having a Hugh Freeze offense struggle that much and you still come away with a win against a Power 5 opponent 4,000 miles or 3,000 miles away from home, I think that's pretty impressive. I don't want to talk about it anymore though.
No, we won't. Let's talk about the Tulane Ole Miss game.
What about
was that the bad beat of the day, or was it the Oregon Texas Tech game?
Buddy, I went 10-2.
That Oregon Texas Tech beat was awful.
Yeah, that was awful. That was awful. The only thing I missed all day was, and I had Oregon money line, remember? Because I was just like trying to get back on track. I had my lock of the week was A&M money line. They lost, and then I had Auburn and Cal over 53.5.
Oof.
Everything else I hit.
I texted you while I think you were probably walking into the Texas game, and I was like, the Iowa State game went under.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Also, did you see Trump gave the middle finger back to fans during that game?
Unreal.
The theater in that just absolute shithole stadium, that shithole rivalry. That's incredible. No, so Tulane, Ole Miss. I just kept thinking all week this game was getting blown out of proportion, and we talked about it so much. I don't know when their quarterback went down, but like Tulane not having a quarterback was.
He never played in the game. He was questionable to come into the game, and people just assumed he was going to play, and he didn't play.
Right,
and they were still winning in the fourth quarter.
Right, it was a 17-point loss, but they were ahead for most of the game.
Yeah,
like in Ole Miss's offense struggled. Which, like, again, I think that's going to be one of those things. It's like if you're talking about like building a foundation for a season, I think that in itself is a really good win for that team, because it's not a hostile environment, but it's a ranked team on the road, and I mean they were up for that game for sure.
No doubt, that was their Super Bowl for the year. I mean, I said that going in, and why I thought they would cover the spread.
Yeah,
and they were until they didn't.
That's can't argue that, Tyler. The Oregon game was an all-time bad beat.
It was bad, dude. I ended up taking, so on the pod I picked Texas Tech to cover the 6.5. But then when I did this little pick 'em pool every week, I ended up picking Oregon in that just to kind of hedge myself. Yeah. So that was good that I won that, but I was pissed that I was like, oh, nice, dude. Like not only will Texas Tech cover the spread, they might actually win this game, and I'm going to look good because Oregon, put up 81 the week before. Then the quarterback for Texas A&M, who is for Texas Tech, very similar name to me. His name is Tyler Shuck.
Tyler Shuck.
Threw a pick six, and the worst part about it is the kid actually, he shouldn't have pick sixed it, because he actually gave them a chance to tie the game by doing that. But no, he did. He went ahead and ran it all the way into the end zone. You just take a knee, the game's over. Instead, you go up 8, and Texas Tech has a chance to go down and tie. So you're an idiot, kid from Oregon.
And that is our unbiased, objective media take of the week. No, I think I'm looking around like the schedule. We're not going to talk about your stupid team because I said so.
That's fine.
Yeah, I was so fucking mad at you, irrationally mad at you leaving the stadium, because I called you and all I wanted was for someone to tell me that I was right or pretty or both, and no one would do either. And I called you and I knew, I was like, this motherfucker isn't even picking up the phone right now. And then it was like, you guys are playing Southern Miss, and I was like, this is stupid. I'm more important than Southern Miss, so thanks a lot for that.
Well, I did. So to be fair, I had my phone on the charger and I was outside smoking a cigar.
Okay, well, we get it. You're rich, so awesome.
Go that far.
So, all right, going through the other games. I'm not going to talk about Michigan because I don't care. Florida State.
Notre Dame looked good.
They did. So let's talk about that. Notre Dame at NC State, going through several different delays, and also a defense that we thought was going to be able to keep them in check. Not even close to being the case.
No, dude, 21-point win. So here's the thing: like, had Bama, let's say Bama got Sam Hartman in the offseason. It's a totally different looking team.
Yeah, which they should have.
Yeah.
Probably.
No, for sure, dude. Like Hartman was legit. Notre Dame is looking really good. I mean, they're a lot better than I thought they would be. I didn't think they had the receivers. Didn't think they would have a great defense. To go into Raleigh, which has been traditionally a tough place to win for a lot of people, they won by 21 points. That was a shocking development. Baylor had that game in hand against Utah until the very end, so they're now 0-2. Ohio State's weird. 35-7. 35-7 against Youngstown State.
Okay.
I don't know, dude. I like when they play Notre Dame. That might be their first L of the season. I just don't know if they have the offense.
It's surprising that Kyle McCord was the quarterback the entire time too. But I will say this, if from a positive standpoint, and like from that game, Ohio State did a really, really good job of making sure they got their playmakers the ball early because they didn't do that against Indiana. Indiana, you leave that game with like what's the kid's name? It's like Megma. It sounds like something you would learn in fucking
Emeka Egbuka?
Yeah, Emeka Egbuka. No thanks. I'll just do tater tots. So then Marvin Harrison had 4 catches for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. I don't know what Emeka Egbuka did, but like, am I gonna get canceled for making a tater tot joke? That's probably bad.
No, I don't think so. Other scores around the SEC, I thought 2 weird games. Kentucky 28, Eastern Kentucky 17. I thought was weird. And also the aforementioned game with Tennessee and Austin Peay was a weird game.
Listen, nobody just waltzes into their own stadium after an 11-win season telling everyone in the fucking world all offseason that they were going to compete for national championships. You don't just destroy Austin Peay.
Right. I mean, granted, they were 0-1 coming in, so they were looking to scrape and get back to 500. So you got to take that into account.
Yeah. Their backs were against the wall. Because if Austin Peay loses another game, that's a team that, when their back's against the wall, especially.
Yeah. And can you imagine that booster base up there in Austin Peay? Because Austin Peay, where they are, right?
Yeah, they look like Austin Poop. Let's go. Let's go on to the next thing. What about – hold on.
Washington might be one of the top 5 teams in the country.
I don't disagree with that at all. Hey, what about North Carolina coming off an absolute devastating performance to South Carolina's season to start the season, and then they fucking lose to App State?
No, first of all, they won.
Wait, they won?
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. I talked so much trash about that earlier today, and damn it.
Oh, yeah, they won. But it was, dude,
Go ahead.
It was so bad. They were the game on ACC Network before ours, so I had to wait for this game to be over to watch Florida State. And they were coming down. They were tied with App State, and they came down and they had like a short field goal. And App State called a timeout right before they snapped the ball. So they just went through, and the guy completely shanked it. And so App State coach is like, oh, my God, I can't believe that. He just totally shanked it. So go again, and he shanks it even worse the second time. It was like a 30-yard chip shot. And so they went into overtime, and they didn't trust the kicker anymore, so that when they would score touchdowns, they would go for 2, even though they didn't have to. And they ended up winning in 2 OTs. But yeah, I mean, dude, here's a hint for everybody: don't schedule App State.
No, for anything.
Like they do this every single year. They're going to be or come close to beating a Power 5 team every year.
Unless you're trying to go fucking like slacklining or something like that, there's no reason to talk to anybody from App State.
Oklahoma, kind of a rough game against SMU. There's some talk that maybe if they want to have a chance of beating Texas, that they may need to go to Jackson Arnold. So that'll be something that maybe we'll watch. Rice beat Houston. JT Daniels, 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. Good for him. Houston, there's like a race between West Virginia's head coach and Dana Holgorsen at Houston to get fired first. I think it might be Dana.
Sure.
When you lose to Rice,
funny if JT Daniels is the one that gets him fired. JT Daniels is he's like the Samuel L. Jackson of fucking college football. He's just in so many things. It's like all these.
There's a McCaffrey on that team too.
Ugh.
Missouri had a scrape by Middle Tennessee State.
What is that? South Carolina was tied 14-14 with Furman.
I don't. Maybe it was just a weird week. Maybe that's why Bama lost. Just a weird week.
All right, I'm over you. Let's close out with one more game and then transition to the next topic and close out the show. But hats off to Mississippi State and Arizona. Tougher game than people thought. I think we thought that Arizona might cover that spread because it was a little bit too high. But Mississippi State, Zach Arnett was brought up in the chat here that he was dropping F-bombs, which we always love. Intense win and a really good win against a Power 5 team at home, even though Arizona's not great. But shout out to that team because I don't think a lot of people are giving them enough love, I think, as the season goes on. They got a tough one this weekend at home against LSU, but I thought that was fun. Now, my question is this. So, speaking of the SEC, because that was one of the only good wins they've had in non-conference play so far this season. Like, we don't have to get into the numbers of it, but like just from the optics standpoint, like is the SEC average this year? Like if you're, you know what, if you're rating the Power 5 conferences right now, where would you legitimately have the SEC?
I mean, probably still 1 if I'm being honest. But
Why?
we want to have fun. Just because if I think, well, they have lost plenty of head-to-head matchups with the ACC, but I think about like everyone's making a big deal about the Pac-12, and rightfully so. They've looked really good this year. Like if I felt like Georgia went up against USC, I don't know. I mean,
I think Georgia
think
would
USC would
matchup, but I
win?
think that the Pac-12 has 8 ranked teams.
Yeah, right now they are the best. I would have to say
Yes.
that. I mean, I can't possibly jump to the ACC being better than the SEC. That would be a total joke.
Stupid.
But yeah, man, I just think, we talked about this in the offseason, but the amount of turnover with quarterbacks in the league was going to make for some parity, and I think you're seeing that play out. I mean, I don't know. There's really no way to know what Carson Beck's going to be. They've played 2 complete cupcakes, but I mean, you've seen Milrow struggle. You've seen Jaden Daniels kind of struggle, even though he's not a new starter. I just think that the quarterback play hasn't been great, and I don't know, man. I mean, the SEC is not having a good start to the year. I can definitively say that. I don't know where it's going to end, but I also think, like, if you're at Georgia, because the SEC is perceived as being a little weaker, if you run the table and then you lose to, like, let's say Bama in the SEC game, like, you're not going to get into the playoff, I wouldn't think, if it continued this way.
No, I don't think so. I mean, the scary part for other people too is like we've never seen a 2-loss SEC. We've never seen an SEC champion kept out of the playoff. So I don't want to like say that a 2-loss, like if Bama loses to Tennessee, they still control their own destiny to get into the SEC championship game and win the West because they won't have a divisional loss. And if they get to Atlanta with 2 losses and they beat Georgia, and Georgia doesn't have a great resume, like I could make the argument of putting Georgia in, but like I'll tell you what, if it plays out like it did in 2021 and Bama goes in there and beats the fucking brakes off of them for 4 quarters and beats them by 17, no, Georgia's not getting in. I do think there's plenty of time to get into like the conference getting better and having more depth to it. The issue you're going to have now is that these numbers, it's a lot like in college basketball when you talk about like having like the Big 12 SEC challenge, or you talk about the ACC Big 10, or like the Battle of Atlantis, all that kind of shit. When you start playing premier programs from around the league, even if it's early in the year, those are what impact your resume late when you're trying to get into March. This is not as big of an impact, but like, make no mistake about it. Like, there's some very marquee losses that you had with the whole nation watching. And I don't think that you're going to have the same luxury that you've had in years past where people are going to say, well, they're the SEC, they cannibalize each other every single year. It's such a tough league to get through. I don't think you're going to get that this year from the outside people looking in. I just don't. Let's do our top 5 and let's get out of here.
All right. For me, I'm going to go 5, Washington.
Ooh.
4, USC.
You're an idiot.
3, Texas.
God.
2, Georgia. 1, Florida State. Michigan, not in the top 5 for me.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I think USC, Texas, Florida State, and Georgia could all beat Michigan.
Yeah, I don't trust Michigan.
Maybe not.
I don't mind that.
Yeah,
I don't mind that at all. I need you to send me that so we can make a graphic out of it. And you can get yelled at on social media about it for sure.
Okay.
Okay, I would take 5, Penn State. 4, I would say Texas. 3, Michigan. 2, Florida State. 1, Georgia.
Okay, so we're pretty close.
Yeah.
All right. That's the end of the show. As always, we really appreciate you all listening to the show. It would really help us in the growth of the show if you would rate us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Leave a review, and we'll read the best ones. We actually did get one over the weekend, so I'm going to go ahead and read that to the loyal listeners here. But yeah, that'll really help us. In fact, if you guys want to go do that now, they're listening live. Please,
I'll give you $1.
I'll give everyone $1. So that means there's $19 to be
There it
handed
is.
out.
Love it.
5 stars. I've enjoyed SDS and the Uncensored podcast since the beginning. Tyler has both hands at 10 and 2, keeping the show on the road, while Chris hilariously tries to steer the conversation into bad breakups, queso, Oregon State, terrible fan bases, and a love for SEC football and Belk.
Wow.
And the good news is we're up 3 spots on the Apple podcast charts in Cambodia.
You are right. Big fan of
Fire us
Cambodia.
up. Don't forget to leave us a message on game days, 770-674-8233. And don't forget to check out the SDS podcast weekly with Connor O'Gara. For Chris, I'm Tyler. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you guys on Thursday.
Yikes.